Welcome to At Home with Kelly and Tiffany, where naturally minded women gather together as we pursue simplicity and confidence in health alternatives so we can show up better in our busy lives and feel more at home in our bodies. Join your favorite home birth midwife duo for conversation, candor, and community.
Welcome back to the show. You are listening to At Home with Kelly and Tiffany.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Tiffany.
There you go.
And if you had any questions about whether you were hearing podcasting from women born in the 80s,
it's Kelly and Tiffany.
it's us. We're in our mid to late 30s now, have the same names we were given.
Good for us.
Yeah. I know some people have changed their names.
The 80s were a weird time.
Hey, what would be your 90s name?
Well, when I was like my middle daughter's age, about 9, I was on a tear that I was going to change my name officially. My parents were like, yeah, sure, like save up the money and go down to the courthouse to do that. And I wanted to be named Dawn.
Like DAWN.
Yep.
Dawn.
Dawn. It sounded so elegant to me. Here I am, just named Kelly, but I could have been Dawn.
Mother.
It's life that you've withheld from me. I mean, Kelly.
I wanted to be my turn.
Yep.
I wanted to change my name to Candace.
Of course. Is it because of DJ Tammy? That's like her real name.
Oh, maybe.
So, fun fact. She wanted to change, or Stephanie, I think maybe on that show, wanted to change her name at some point to Dawn also. And I was like, we are kindred.
Whoa. This has come full circle. That's the end of the show. That's all you guys needed to know.
Really embraced that rhythm.
Okay. Today, we're talking about embracing seasonal rhythms. It's something we're really excited to share about because we are so invested in doing this in our own lives right now. And although at the onset, it doesn't seem like it has a lot to do with midwifery and health, it actually is completely pivotal to doing lady life well, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. And just like the idea of reconnecting with your body, with your heart, with all the things that are going on in your life, assessing how you're responding to those things, noticing changes, embracing some of those, recognizing what actually needs to change within that. It's important to be able to give yourself some permission to lean into these seasons.
It sure is. Thank you, Kelly.
Yep.
Okay, I want to share a quote.
Ooh.
Speaking of things that are potentially off topic,
Yes, please.
I came across this and I saved it for a time that we were going to talk about this. This is what Charles Dickens says. You ready for a little Dickens in your life?
Yep.
Nature gives to every time and season unique beauty from morning to night, as from the cradle to the grave. It's just a succession of changes so soft and comfortable that we hardly notice the progress.
It's like a little warm blanket of a statement.
Like, it just encompasses so much about what is happening around us already in natural rhythms in nature, how our bodies are designed to be rhythmic, cyclic, especially women, right? We're so cyclic. And giving space for that, to recognize that like we've been created so purposefully and we can honor that piece.
Absolutely. When I started really digging into understanding even how those shifts happen month to month, like with my own cycle, I was like, oh man, the way that I have been eating or moving my body or giving it rest or not giving it rest was off. And when I started pouring some time into that, I was like, oh man, this feels good, right? I can feel my body being more nourished in different seasons. I will say though, we do live in San Diego. So we like the whole idea of seasons isn't always as like forefront here since it was like 75 today.
No, I'm really embracing seasonal changes in San Diego.
I am too. We have a beautiful tree in our front yard that is changing colors and the leaves are falling and it's so gorgeous. And it actually really has helped me be like, yes, I can put on a sweatshirt in the morning.
That's right.
Drink my coffee and enjoy these falling leaves.
Remember the fashion trend where you'd wear a mini skirt with Ugg boots.
Yes.
That is just embracing San Diego
Yeah.
seasonal changes in a nutshell.
We probably started that trend. Yep.
It's ridiculous. Okay, before we jump into how to embrace seasonal rhythms as a woman, I want to share one really important supplement with our listeners today. It is evening primrose oil. This is a supplement that gets touted a lot in women's health for pregnancy reasons, for labor prep, but it is a really beautiful supplement to add to PMS symptoms.
Yes, I think most women are surprised when they hear about how powerful the research is behind the supplement.
Yeah, so the research that supports evening primrose supplementation is cutting PMS symptoms in half for women.
That's crazy.
But so crazy. Some of these symptoms include headache, emotions,
That's it.
strong emotions, bloating, irritability, breast tenderness, food cravings, changes to your digestive habits.
Mm, give that to me.
Yep. So these are all things that have been included in the research that can be reduced in half by taking evening primrose oil. The dosing is 500 milligrams a day. And the important piece of selecting this supplement is that you're getting one that is non-GMO or organic and that it's cold pressed. So it being a reputably sourced supplement is really important with this particular one because there's a lot of cross-contamination and poor harvesting happens with any kind of oil, really.
Yes. Yeah, it's been really fun this year of Well Woman Care that we've been doing, how many times this particular supplement showed up in conversation, in recommendations, and the feedback from it has been so encouraging. So that's something that every lady should have in their back pocket.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you guys. Anything we can do to ease PMS symptoms, we are 100% on board with. Okay. We are going to share 5 seasonal rhythms for every woman.
Including me?
Yes, you.
Okay.
You can come.
I can come too.
Yeah, you can do it. There was actually about 27 seasonal rhythms that I wanted to share. So
You're welcome.
you're welcome. I narrowed it down to 5. I mean, what are we noticing this time of year?
Already, especially as the weather starts to change and the leaves are falling and all of those good things, there's just this call, at least that I feel like we are feeling, and that we, as we talk about it, so many other women are feeling the same, kind of digging back into home, slowness, things like hobbies and baking and all of those things that, to be honest, in previous years, life has been so hectic that I don't think I have really noticed it as much as I have this year. And it's been so sweet to pick up those nuances, not just in my own life, but seeing it in other people too.
Yeah, we're in a period of off call from birth type of work right now through the end of the year. And so it really does feel like that transition and time
Hmm.
mixed with the season changing it feels very dramatic in my
It
life.
really does. And I almost feel like I'm like overly poetic about it, but like, no, this is good.
Yeah, it's all the things that you, like you said, that you want to have time for to nourish and
Hmm.
enjoy the season. It's a sweet little break in between the excitement and energy level of summer, but it's before the rush of the holidays.
Hmm.
It's like a sweet little space of like, I just feel sleepier, I think, because the nights are longer and the days are shorter.
I used to really fight that of like, but it's only 6:30. Like, why don't I want to go out to do something? I'm
Mhm.
like, it's okay if I don't want to go out and do something. It's fall, y'all. Pumpkin spice latte.
I saw something today that said
Thankful, blessed.
pumpkin spice baby. I was digging it. I almost bought it and I was like, you are not that person. You're not going to buy that.
You really aren't that person.
No, not going to do that. Okay, 5 seasonal rhythms for every woman. Number 1, get more sleep.
Ah,
The evenings just feel slower. It gets darker sooner. There's an opportunity for earlier bedtimes. There's a longer window for sleep rituals when it's darker
Mhm.
earlier, right? And so potentially your whole day can kind of like wind down a little bit more and enjoy getting more sleep. I mean, we're probably a society that functions on 5 or 6 hours on average every single night.
And no matter what anybody tells you, that's actually not enough.
No,
Even if you're like, "But I feel great."
you're not gonna
You're
feel
yeah.
great in a little while.
We love talking about sleep, though. It's a great one. Okay, number 2, eating warming foods, right? I was just talking about baking, things like that, like, the nourishment and kind of those slow cooking, slow baking items in the fall, I feel like that is just it just reminds you of being home, being safe, it's very, very sweet. We really recommend, especially when you're noticing and, taking this time to reassess what you are feeling, what you're experiencing, what the rhythms really are, assessing your cravings, right? Like your food cravings. A lot of times that comes with like, oh, we're in fall and we're baking all of these things and like lots of treats and Halloween just happened, all of that stuff. But opting for really nutrient rich, fiber high carbs, like you see everywhere when you go to the grocery store now, squash, all of those yummy pumpkins and root vegetables, sweet potatoes, which like those came back into rotation in my house after being gone for way too long. And I was like, yes, love me some sweet potatoes. But things like beans, quinoa, brown rice, all of those good, nourishing foods, especially in the fall, there's just something really sweet about putting the crock pot on, putting the oven on, and enjoying the fruit of your nutrient dense labor.
Yeah, like, you don't mind heating up your house with the oven on or, like,
No.
things all day long, like you did a couple months ago. You were like, "No, I forbid you to cook inside this house."
I will lean into that for sure.
Number 3 is gentle movement. So whether you had an exercise routine that was really much more intense over the summer, I know mine is because 'cause I'm like, "Well, I'm in a bathing
Yeah.
suit.
This makes sense.
I'm going to try to make it
Yeah.
look better." Moving into fall and autumn and winter, you're covered up more.
Mhm.
So you don't have to be quite so focused on the little nuances of, your body.
Your particular hang up with your particular thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that creates
Mhm.
some space and freedom to enjoy a little bit more gentle movement. And that might look like stretching, walking, some low impact
Mhm.
cardio. It's great to be exercising and moving your body, of course. And the way that your body looks is not the only reason to exercise, right? There's so many great benefits, but kind of slowing down on maybe potentially a higher pace or higher intensity that you had.
Yeah, and when you said, like, actually enjoying it, I think that's really a sweet part of it too, is I mean, I enjoy really good high intensity sweat, but there's something really good too about that more gentle movement that just is like, "Oh, you are my body that is capable of so many different things." Kinda sweet. Okay, number 4, introspection. As we've already said, we're just very poetic about this time of year in particular, but actually taking some time to reconnect with your body, reconnect with your mind, reconnect with your heart, your soul, doing things like journaling, spending time outside, all bundled up with like a warm coffee on a fall day. Like, there's not much better than that, right? And I think we live in such a society where we just hear things from everywhere.
Mm.
We're on our phones first thing in the morning or have the news on or just constantly kind of bombarded with information that I don't think we're actually technically made to take in all of that. We weren't made to know what's happening on the other side of the world 24/7. And so being able to take a step back from that, especially in this season, can be really freeing and sweet.
Mm,
Yep.
I love that.
Mm.
Number 5, this is our last seasonal rhythm to share today, and I'll do the other 22 on the next episode, is boundaries. I mean, I wanted to put this one first, but I didn't want to freak
Just
people
do
out.
5.
Boundaries, 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 boundaries. More so that, like, it's okay to be alone
Mhm,
a little bit. It's okay to come back a little bit from socialization, right?
mhm,
And allow space for earlier bedtimes, allow space for cooking meals in your home, allow some time for that introspection to
mm,
be able to go on an hour-long walk instead of a 20-minute high-intensity interval,
mhm.
like, just pulling back from some of those commitments and nourishing yourself, nourishing your body with your time and such.
That feels like a thing that we've spoken about here before too, of like some of those things that to say no to in order to say yes to some of these other rhythmic things is like the idea of putting down something like, oh, that's a good thing that you were doing or that you were saying yes to. But in this particular season, the boundaries and the freedom to say, yeah, that's good, but it's not for me right now. And here's what I can pick up instead. Oh, that's good.
Well, okay, so this is one of the coolest things about allowing for rhythms and allowing for seasonal or cyclic habits is it's for a short period of time,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so you're like, "Oh, I'm embracing this. I'm trying this out. I'm going to lean in into this direction." And I know for sure that in a couple of months I'm going to have a whole different set of wants and desires and other routines to embrace.
Hmm.
So we're not establishing something that's like, well, this is how I'm always going to eat
Yes.
now. This is how I'm always going to move my body now. It's like, oh, let's create some diversity and also flexibility. Like practicing flexibility, I think, is what has been really lacking in my life in not embracing rhythms in the past. Is I'm like, I cannot divert from
This
I'm
is what
barely
I do.
holding it
Yeah.
together, but that creates a lot of inflexibility, which is difficult to be that person and be around that person. So I have heard.
Rumors from somebody else. Yeah, as you're talking, it kind of reminded me of the beginning we were talking about the name change thing. I'm like, oh, Dawn is this like elegant woman's life, right? I feel like that's me in the fall. I'm like,
You're
"Oh,
done.
yes, I'm really stepping into the Dawn nature that I was so unfortunately robbed of in my childhood. But to really embrace that and be like, before it felt a little extravagant to be like, well, yeah, I am gonna take an hour out of today in order to, like, get back into my sourdough making or meal prep, all of these root vegetable whatever, and to actually do it and to kinda give into that feels extravagant in some ways, but it's so simple, right? And, like, that's what's so sweet about it, is that it's not overwhelming, it's not so much, but it just making space for it feels pretty luxurious.
Yeah. And the aspect of this concept, and obviously there's so many parts of health that are just holistic, and, we've discussed lots of those. But the aspect that makes this practice really tangible is being willing to slow down and listen,
Mhm.
right? And recognizing that potentially we're coming out the season that we weren't able to listen well, or weren't able to hear well, or we're not willing to,
Yeah.
actually, not willing to slow down and listen and really hear what your body is saying. And that's something that we're constantly advocating for women to do, right? Is create literacy around what your body is telling you what it needs, and recognizing that there's some potential change, that we're not robot people.
Yeah, and in particular, even monthly, right? We've spoken about that before and how important it is to connect with what's going on in your cycle each month, but who you are in these different phases of the cycle too. It's really powerful. I remember learning about ovulation and that energy boost and how much more creative you are and all of that. And once I understood that about myself, I'm like, well, that's the week, right? That I'm scheduling to do more content creation or whatever because and I notice that, right? I notice it's different 2 weeks later when I'm starting to bleed and I'm like, "This is not I am not who I was 2 weeks ago."
Yeah,
And accepting that and embracing that and giving myself what I need in that, it's pretty powerful.
absolutely. We've probably shared this on the show before, but I'm always a little bit tickled with the concept of there's 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, There's 4 seasons in a calendar year, and somebody at some point has kind of matched those 2 things up, which includes winter is when you're on your period. That makes perfect sense,
Cold
right?
and dark day.
It's like, Elsa in Frozen when she runs off to her ice castle. Spring is follicular as you're preparing to ovulate. Luteal is summer,
Mhm.
right? So that as you're ovulating and coming into the last part of your cycle. And then finally, premenstrual is fall.
I feel that. Like, in a new way, I feel like this year, I really feel that.
And it's, to me, I feel like because the extremes of summer and winter are what they are seasonally, the spring and fall
Yeah,
really feel like more like transitional
yeah,
times, right? Like you're leaving one thing behind and preparing for the
yeah.
next thing to come. So knowing that autumn and fall are like, tied to the premenstrual phase of the cycle, kind of gives some context to what some of
Yeah.
those rhythms need to be, right?
Yeah, it's kinda sweet to lay it out like that, and I think sometimes, at least on social media, when people are posting about fall and they're like, "Oh," like, kinda making fun of the idea of, like, women loving fall so much, and I'm like, "This is really something that we should actually embrace." Maybe we don't need to, like, be the girl in the Uggs with the pumpkin spice latte every, day,
Pumpkin spice baby.
but you can be. You can be whatever you want to be with your
It's
pumpkin
for a
spice latte.
short
Yes,
season.
exactly. But the sweetness, I think that, there's something there to the fact that women are drawn to this season.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
fun.
it's interesting.
Episode 10, when we're talking about going way, way back,
Yeah.
episode 10 is understanding your cycle. And so we dive into all those 4 phases. And I don't think we make it weird with the seasons. I think we mostly just talk about it really straight and really straightforward. If you want to learn more about your cycle and what's going on in those different
Mhm.
phases, episode 10 is your winner for that. Okay, so ladies, where can you give yourself permission to embrace some new rhythms?
And actually, it's like the giving yourself permission to is what I'm feeling a lot of this season.
Yeah, like allowing.
Yeah,
How can you allow a little bit of
and they're not major allows, right? They're not huge things. They're very simple, but they're not in line necessarily with the going hustle culture around us.
which one of the 5 that we shared today feels most resonant with you?
You know, I'm gonna go with boundaries just because I feel like that's overarching in a lot of different spaces in my life, but it overarches a lot of the different pieces of allowing yourself the comfort of being okay with having your nights at home or saying no to things that just aren't right for this particular season or saying yes to some things and having the freedom to be able to do that too. And allowing those yeses to actually be yeses and nos to actually be nos for good reason. It's boundary making. Yeah,
For a season.
for a season.
Ask me what mine is.
Okay, Tiffany, out of these 5 seasonal rhythms for every woman, what is your particular I'm gonna guess.
Hurry up.
What's your
Oh,
seasonal rhythm
no,
that you need to embrace?
you guess first. This is what you think I need to do. Go
No,
ahead.
I think you're gonna say boundaries also.
No.
Oh, sleep.
Mm-mm.
Oh. Interesting.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's probably what I'm lacking the most is introspection. I tend to go at a pace in which I do not have to sit in silence with myself. Not because I'm afraid of that necessarily. When
Yeah.
I'm intentional and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I actually really that's very beneficial. But when I'm just doing my crazy Tiffany daily life stuff, I notice that I avoid downtime.
Mm. I find you to be a very introspective person.
I have a lot of things to say about what I think. It's not the same. Not the same. I like being introspective for other people.
I was gonna say for me.
You know what I've been thinking about for you lately? Tell me, are you not uncomfortable with 5 minutes of there's nothing to do because you're waiting in a line at the bank or waiting to pick up your kid from
Yeah, so
something?
I have for a very long time been the person who picks up my phone and fidgets during that time where I'm just like mindlessly pressing buttons, and I'm really like have made a really strong effort to not do that and just sit in the waiting.
Yeah.
And I will say, especially when I'm out doing stuff, I've had so many more conversations with people
Yeah.
because I'm like, well, I mean, I guess it's not downtime not thinking about anything, but also I'm like more opportunity, right? Of like engaging.
My mind will start to problem solve. And
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, good. Now I finally have time to figure out what we're going to make for dinner that's going to get everybody out of the house on time tonight or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Which is like important. I have to do that. But I don't always take advantage of the pieces of where I'm like, what if it's not about productivity?
Mm,
What if these couple of minutes are just
sitting
sitting
with me.
quietly and being
Yeah.
comfortable with not having a productivity thing to do?
Mhm.
I think that'd be a sweet thing for me to practice.
I love that for you.
And you do too. You think that would be a sweet thing for me to
I think
practice.
that would be really great.
Okay, ladies, we are winding this particular episode down.
But we are winding the season up.
It's gonna get so wound
And
up. We will be embracing podcast season in a way that is very exciting
Mhm.
and summer-like. We're gonna follow our own advice, but we are going to entertain you, I guarantee it.
Our yeses are yeses.
And we say yes quite a bit,
You.
don't we? Okay, so from here, 2 things. Number 1, your sleep freebie is still available to you. Click the link in the show notes to get on our email list, and then you get an immediate sleep freebie. So
We love sleep.
seasonal rhythm number 1,
Sleep.
you have already got some detail coming
Mhm.
at you on that. And number 2, we're bringing back the leave a review and we'll buy you a drink.
Leave a review that we read on the podcast, and we'll buy you a drink.
If your review is nice, I will tell you what. I don't know how this happened. I do not know how this happened. Our rating right now is 4.9. Sub perfect. Somebody left a 1 star on ours without an explanation.
Not buying them a drink.
They probably accidentally clicked on the oral sex one because they're jerks and just wanted to hear a bunch of nasty stuff. And then,
And then they were like, this isn't nasty.
no, this is just informative and helpful. I hate these people. So you leaving a review would actually be really helpful.
In particular, a 5-star.
Yeah. And we look at them every single week. It is the only thing that keeps us going. So if you want more episodes, please give us a review. But we will read them on the show. And if we read them on the show, you say, hey,
That was me.
that was me. You read my review on the show and we'll buy you a drink. It can be any drink you want. Coffee, tea,
I mean, we're not going to
water.
buy you like a Dom Perignon or whatever it's called.
It can't be that.
But like a pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah. Cocktail or a glass of wine.
Yeah.
We are good for it.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yep. Wrapping up. We loved chatting about this. I hope that you take home some things that you're like, yes, I do have some freedom in this season and a bit more understanding of why it is that this season is potentially calling out to you the way that it is to us too. And we will see you next week.
Pumpkin spice, baby.
Ding, 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 ding.